your price is too high, or what are you doing building a house? This is more than my house. I'm never going to get this return. Like all this head trash starts already building up during the process of generating the proposal.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sales Made Simple workshop. Today, we actually have Jesse Gonzalez in with us. We're going to talk about follow-up. We're going to talk about how to go after clients after you've already sent out your proposals. And if you start finding that you have some head trash coming into it or anything like that, then we can talk about how to get around that. So, Jesse, welcome on.
Hello, hello. How are you guys doing?
And I'm excited to have you on here. I'm excited to listen to the roadblock that you've hit in your sales process and see if we can find a path through and help a lot of listeners at the same time. You cool with that?
Absolutely.
Awesome, man. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, where you're at, that kind of thing, and then we'll start talking about that follow-up.
Well, yeah, I have a business. I've had it for 14 years. I started off in maintenance. I'm slowly transitioning into the outdoor living space, landscape design, which I've always wanted to do, but I just got stuck in the maintenance side of things in 2008, 2009, when, the recession was happening. I was oblivious to everything like that. So I'm like, I'm gonna start a landscape business. So
Mm-hmm.
it ended up working out pretty well. I'm still here. I'm still, alive and kicking. Yeah, so this is where I've been, at my whole entire career, owning a business and meeting different types of clients, working with different types of people, having employees, and now just making that also that transition of, subbing work out now, which is another challenge in itself
Mm-hmm.
to other contractors to help build my projects.
Got it. Cool. What kind of projects do you normally do? Like, what does an average project look like for you?
Right now, it's like outdoor kitchens, mid-size patios, a deck project here and there.
Okay.
Nothing too extravagant, but I'm working on it.
Cool. Well, that's great. It's a good place to be rolling here. So tell us about where you're running your sales problem, where you're running into that snag in the follow-up. So walk us kind of through a scenario and where you're finding that snag.
Okay, so I feel like the initial contact with the customer is great. I don't mind, taking them on that journey and showing them like the potential and designing and having that communication throughout, the steps of like what are we going to go, what are we going to do, how are we going to design it. So getting all that stuff is fine. It's like when I do the proposal, I already start when I start putting the numbers in, I start having, these thoughts like, oh my gosh, is that too much? Or so I'm actually going back into like my past experiences of what other, I don't know, prospects, homeowners have told me in the past, like, oh, you're not competitive enough. I know the market, and um, your price is too high, or what are you doing building a house? This is more than my house. I'm never going to get this return. Like all this head trash starts already building up during the process of generating the proposal. And then once I send it out, that's when I start having those stronger feelings. And, I'm hoping that they call me instead of me having to call them. Um, so all that plays in part. So I look at their name, I look at the CRM, I look at their name. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't contacted them for like a week or so. Like, what's going on? Do they not want me? They probably found someone else, you know?
Mm.
Um, and then when I do have the courage to call, sometimes it's just something pretty stupid, like, oh, they've been out of town, or they haven't gotten back, or they haven't had a chance to sit down with their spouse and like go through the numbers and see where they're able to finance or get the funds to do the project itself. And or some they just, I call and they don't even pick up or answer. So that right there starts playing a big part. So it's like, well, if they're really interested, then they'll call me. And I know that I need to to make that first initial contact whatsoever, whatever it is, a
Mm.
couple days, a week, or whatever it is, just to see where they're at. So I know where they're at, so I know what I need to do. But it's just that head trash that's stopping me from actually doing it, because I guess I still want them to like me in some, I don't want to be portrayed as like, oh my gosh, this guy's too crazy, or have any negative talk towards me or my business.
Mhm.
So that's that's something that's always plagued me my whole entire life, of wanting people to just, like me. Um, and so I would, do things when I was, just to have, or say things that just to have people, you know, say, oh yeah, he has something in common with me, even though I may not, you know. This was like more like when I was in high school and stuff, but like in the business, it transitioned, I guess, pretty well in that aspect, because like I said, like talking to the homeowner is great. Building that rapport, you know, even sometimes taking a sidetrack and talking about, some personal things like, family and stuff. Um, and, callbacks or whatever, just before the whole proposal and is sent out, everything's great. And then after that, it's like a disaster.
So a lot of questions here. So first question is, do you do your own designs or do you sub that out?
I do my own designs.
Got it. Okay. And you meet with your clients, you take them through like a sales process. Tell me a bit about that. Like, what are you doing before it comes time for the actual proposal?
So yeah, I usually find out like what their needs are, why they're wanting this, what are they looking for, what they have right now in place, or if not, and what their intention is to for that new space. What's that going to look like? Um, so I get a better idea. I end up going out doing a consultation, talking to them. And during this time, like I send them like inspirational pictures and stuff, and then they take a look. And like, really like this, really like that, and we could, incorporate in a design like what that's going to look like for their home, and have it custom to them. Um, and then once we figure out and everything's, finalized, like, yeah, we want this is what we want this size square footage, or we want this kitchen, we don't want, we want one fridge instead of two, or whatever it is. Then I get the pricing on it, do that, and I start building it. I during this whole time I give them like a rough range, a little bit, of pricing, but I try to minimize it. I don't like to bring it up more than like one time, I guess,
Hmm.
just because I don't want that like sales resistance, or, I'm like, well, maybe I'm hoping that they like the design enough that they'll find, you know, um, the funds to fund this project. Um, so then everything looks great, everything's fine, or they're like, oh, that's fine, that'll work. Sometimes okay, so the most recent one is like, this was a large deck, and it was about like with a glass railing. They wanted a pergola, kitchen. It was going to be like about close to like roughly around $150,000. And I told him, well, you're looking at around, over $100,000, project here. He's like, oh, that'll work. He's like, the only thing we got to figure out is just like the cedar roof. There's some going on with it, and don't know how much that's going to be and stuff. So I was communicating with him, talking to him. Everything's fine. He told me about the cedar roof. He's like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. It's just going to need a little bit of maintenance. That's only like, a few $1,000s, whatever it is. And I'm like, oh, cool. He's probably going to do the project. And he was very excited. And then I was, once I sent him the proposal, it took him, oh, see, 'cause this is why I waited. It took in 2 weeks. This is 2 weeks, because I feel ashamed about this one. But 2 weeks, he actually reached back out to me, and then he basically said he was sticker shocked.
Hmm.
And then it's like, oh shit, like didn't we just talk about that, it's gonna be like around $100,000 or above, whatever, and he seemed pretty fine with it. And then I, talked to, like, I messaged him back, and called him, and basically said like, maybe we could, instead of like the glass railing, what if we do like different types of railing, and maybe hold off on the like the pergola and the kitchen, and just do the deck. And again, no response.
Yeah.
So that right there is like, man, like, what did I do wrong? Or I'm sure there's a lot of things I did wrong probably to do that, but it's like, well, then that's it. I'm not going to try to call him again. You know, if he wants
Yeah.
something, he's going to have to reach back out to me.
Yep. Yep. You just sit there waiting and waiting and keep your fingers crossed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, question for you, Jesse, is were both decision makers part of this conversation from day one, or were you just working directly with him?
I I talked to him initially. Then I talked to his wife. We actually ended up having like a late Zoom call, like around like 10 o'clock at night, just because with her work. Um, so we were talking for almost 2 hours and going through the design and stuff. And she seemed on board, and she's the one that wanted all these extra things and all these different, like the glass railing, the
Mm,
kitchen, the pergola. He was more a set of just like, I know the deck and stuff, but he loved also those other things. He's like, well, that looks great. He's like, the glass railing is going to look good because I don't like how it's going to interfere for me looking into like the wooded area.
yeah.
So I said, okay, cool. And again, and she's the one with all the, he even said like, she's the one that deals with all the finances. And again, that was brought up, you're looking at, over $100,000. It's like, oh, okay. Like it was nothing. Oh, okay, this is going to be a good project. I can't wait. I'm super
Yep.
excited.
Yep.
And then now it's just
Yeah.
like it never happened.
Yeah. And how does that feel when you do all that work and you work with that client and you get excited and then this happens? How does that feel, Jesse?
Oh man, it's very disappointing, but also like it hurts. It makes me feel like I'm doing a lot of things wrong,
Yeah.
or maybe my design's not as good, or all the like
Yep.
the self doubt, basically.
Yep. Yep. Totally get it, dude. I've been there many, many times. And have to say, what you're going through right now is something that I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate to. It's a self-doubt, the stuff that goes on in your mind. Now, there's a couple of strategies that we can work on to minimize some of that. And so much of that self-doubt comes from having actual evidence to circumvent that. Meaning that if you say, for instance, you say, okay, my price is too high, but in a hypothetical world, you saw two other bids come in for the same project and you could compare yours to them and you could see that your price wasn't the highest, then you have evidence to back that up. Does that make sense? So it's the
Yeah.
uncertainty is what's driving this doubt inside of you and not knowing whether they're focusing only on numbers, because his response to you based on your conversation with me here is that he said, well, we have sticker shock after 2 weeks later, after he said, yeah, no big deal. That 100,000 is not a big deal. Did I have that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So then you're thinking like, what the hell? Like I told you it was going to be $100,000. You agreed to that. Your wife agreed to that at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And now all of a sudden you got sticker shock. Like what is going on here? How did I not spell this out well enough? Am I close?
Right. Yeah.
So, listeners out there, one thing you have to realize when it comes to pricing is specifically earlier in the process is that we have to establish a number or a range. Specifically, range is better in a project. Like you started there, it's going to be over $100,000, but over $100,000 could be $101,000. It could be
Right.
$1 million. That's over 100,000, right? There's a big spread there. So when you say $100,000 to the client because you're trying to help them with a budget, they automatically think, even if you said over 100,000, they think 100,000. Or only irresponsible people would spend 100,000 on something like this. But okay, for the sake of time right now, we're still in research phase. That's where they are in their buying cycle. They're still trying to get ideas together. It's still all fantastical right now. Let's look at what's possible. Let's not worry about numbers yet because we're not buying it yet. We're just kind of testing it out, trying the shoe on, if you will, right? So with that being the case, the numbers aren't quite as important yet. But at some point in your relationship, you're going to be asking them to stroke a check. And that check, you're thinking it's going to be over $100,000. And if that client's not prepared mentally for that, emotionally for that, because they don't have a good enough evidence that it makes sense to move forward with that, then you're stuck. You get in a position like you are right now. So I say all of this because the one thing that I could see that you could, that if you so choose to, that could change the way that you have conversation around the budget side is when you said, hey, it's going to be over $100,000. Is that okay? You're going to get a much better result with your clients if the numbers come out of their mouth.
Mm.
So if that client, if you were to say, instead of wanting to jump in and be like, it's going to be over $100,000, right? I mean, deep down, that's what we want to say. Like, come on, guys, you should know this, right? Because we do it every day. We have to push back on that urge to say that. And we have to stop and say, all right, Mr. Jones, we have a bunch of things you've talked about here. So what is your hope for a budget on a project like this? If they haven't given you one already. Now, in a sales process, you would grab that early in your questionnaire phase, like in the very beginning. You get an idea of where it's at, and then we want to hit that on the discovery call before we ever actually go out to them so that we know. But our goal as sales guides, we're here to serve our clients, sales guides, is to guide them through this conversation, the budget conversation. This is where most get stuck in our industry and all the trades, really. It's budget, especially high ticket. You're talking $100,000, brother. 100,000. That's a lot of money. You know what I mean? I don't know about you, dude, but I didn't grow up with any money. So 100 grand to me is still freaking bonkers. And so we have to understand that because we get so callous to the numbers because we see them every day. Most clients don't see that kind of money every day. They don't talk big numbers like that every day, right? So when we sit down with them and we're asking about budget, or we're too afraid to ask about budget because it'll be a dream killer to what they want, our goal is to ask them questions. Like I mentioned earlier, hey guys, we've talked about a lot of stuff. What is your hope for a budget on a project like this? The genesis of that number, if it's going to be effective, has to come from them. It can't come from us, even though we want to just bulldoze right into that conversation. And we would just want to tell them, yeah, it's going to be over $100,000. Are you ready for that? Because their response is either going to be, get the hell out of my house. That's way beyond what I expected from wherever they got that idea from. Or two, which is most likely what they're going to do, they're going to give you a false yes, which is what they gave you. A false, yeah, no problem. That's cool. Because they're not spending the money right now, Jesse. Right now, it's all fairy tales. It's all, what could this be? They're not stroking a check yet. They're not agreeing, or they're not accountable to that $100,000. It's simply, okay, we probably won't spend that, but let's see where we're going with this. And eventually, when your budget comes back, what did that project end up coming back? What did you try to sell that project for? How much?
It was
Roughly.
like 100, roughly like 129.
Yep.
-ish.
So now you said it's going to be over 100. They heard 100. Now you're at 129, so you're $29,000 over the 100 that they heard, even though you told them more. Now you've got this impasse where they're not going to spend more than 100. This is already way past what they want to do. 129 is way over the top. The number that came for that budget came out of your mouth, not theirs. So they gave you a false yes. This happens all the time in contracting, specifically in high ticket. Does that make sense? So my question for you is, how could you have handled that differently in order to get a different response? What are some thoughts you have now after hearing that? How could you have handled that differently to hopefully get a better response or a different response from that client?
Well, exactly what you were saying, like, have them come, what they have in mind to spend initially, and then talking to them, like letting them know, like, well, you could get this and that for that price, but if you're looking for this outdoor kitchen with all the bells and whistles to it, this aluminum, pergola, like, that's just going to add on to on top of the deck what you're looking for. I think having that realistic, I guess, was it creating like a price condition of some sort, so they understand initially what that's going to look like. So I don't want to get another, that I'm sticker shocked type of response again.
It hurts, man. It hurts.
It does.
You're like, how could it possibly get sticker shock? I told you it's going to be over 100 grand, and it is over 100 grand. I've delivered on my word. My expectations are clear. Why do you get sticker shock? Why? And this is why. This is why their expectations weren't met. Even though they said, and they gave you a false yes, they said differently to your face because they didn't want a confrontation. They didn't want conflict. They didn't want you to be mad at them. That's the main thing. They're like, all right, well, we don't want to get and tell this guy to his face that he's out of his freaking mind. We're not spending that much because we're halfway down this road by now. We have a plan together. We have a design. We like it. And now the bottom line is we can't afford it. And that pisses us off as homeowners, right? That pisses us off. We're like, shit, we can't afford this. Why are we going to do this project? And then the numbers person, which in this scenario sounds like it's the wife based on what you've told me, then she's like, wait a minute here. Like, we're not spending 129,000 back there. That's just not going to happen. Let's get some more bids. So this is a constant circle that happens in contracting, specifically high ticket. So a couple of things to unpack here as we move through this. First of all, it's the amount of confidence that you're coming into this sales conversation with, right? I don't feel in your tonality and all that, I hear different words that are in there, filler words that are simplifying and minimizing what you're trying to offer. And I feel that the clients, or I know that your clients will feel that from you. They'll feel that you're not confident in what you're saying, that your number is a number, but not really confident in it. When that happens, when they don't feel the confidence, they question it too. You don't have to say, you can say 3 words and they can feel you're either confident or you're not confident. They can feel your confidence without you saying a word. I've already done an episode all about body language and how when you show up, is your shoulders hunched over, is your head down, is your physiology basically saying, you won't want to buy this from me, would you? Right? So it is really about confidence. And it's not about being brash or nasty or screaming at people or being the loudest or the most. That's not what it is. It's about listening well, in leading with questions, letting your clients sell themselves, not having to sell them anything. That's the secret to this entire process. This is the best version of serving, is to ask questions, let the clients drive the ship. You're just asking them and guiding them. You're keeping guardrails up. That's all with your questions.
Yeah.
So by asking questions specifically around budget, setting expectations early, asking them what do they hope their, what do they hope a budget would look like for a project like this? And if they said, Jesse, let's, 70,000 is about what we're thinking. Bingo. Okay. They're giving to you what they think is going to be, probably going to be lower than what they will spend, but they're going to give you some kind of a framework. Are they talking 15,000? Are they talking 115,000? Like, we don't know until it comes from them. And then here's your next key question. After they give you that number, after in the hypothetical scenario here, they said 70,000 was their number because it came from them after you asked them a question. Your next question is, what do you hope that will cover? You stay absolutely silent on your side and you let them talk. And they may say, oh, the deck and the pergola and the outdoor kitchen and the blah, blah, blah. And in your mind, now, guys, listeners out there, we have to be thinking that we'd have to know our numbers. We have to know rough ranges of what a deck should cost. And I know everyone is different. It's custom. I get that. Rough range of what a deck normally comes in at, rough range of what a patio normally comes in at, rough range of what these different features that is in your lane that you guys do every day. Get a rough idea. So if you're thinking a deck is typically between 40 and 60,000 and you think, all right, well, a patio is between 15 and 30, like again, depending on where you are and what you're doing and what your averages are, we're just trying to get rough ranges here in your mind. So you're doing some quick math as you're talking to the client. And by the end of the 4 things that they list that they hope are included in that $70,000, and at the end, your math says it's 120,000 and there's that 70, we've got a problem. Does that make sense, Jesse? We have a problem of expectation right now. They expect their 70,000 to buy them $120,000 worth of actual outdoor living space. So that's a big delta. So now we're in a situation where we've got to ask more questions, not tell them you're an idiot because you think you can get $120,000, because that's what we want to do, right? We want to say you're an idiot for thinking you can do that. 70 grand. What did you watch HGTV back in the 90s? Like, seriously, do you think this is even possible? Anyway, we don't say that though, because we're guides, we're serving. We simply ask another question. Are you guys open to learning about what these things typically cost? And everyone is going to say yes. So you see how we went from asking them a question, them giving us a number, to asking what do we hope that number would cover, followed by, if the budgets are way off, are you open to learning what these things typically cost? Do you see how we're giving them the reins to say yes and no to all of this? And then we have a conversation. And either they say, wow, I didn't expect it to be that much. Okay, which feature or function here would you like to cut out or add into a future phase so that we can get it down to 70 for now for you? Maybe we phase it over time. Are you open to that?
Yeah.
So I'm going to pause there. I've been doing a lot of talking, Jesse. What's been landing for you?
Just being a little bit more real with them and having them, make that, like you were saying, that call and what their budget is. But again, I hesitate on that because I feel through past experiences myself, like well, I'm not going to tell you my budget, because if I tell you my budget, you're gonna maximize it and you're gonna get to where it's at. And
Yeah.
even though it's not, because I'm trying to avoid what happened to me with this situation.
Yep.
And it's not trying to max out their budget. I just want to know what they're willing to spend, so that maybe we could, like you said, phase this project out in different phases. And it's like, for this would be like, do the deck first, and if you're going to be doing the pergola, next year, then we make sure that we reinforce the deck area and have the footings there, so when we do put it in, it's ready to go. We just install it.
That's right.
The kitchen too, same thing. Where you want the kitchen, so we could put the utilities in there, like and get conduits running through, and making sure it's ready for hookup once, with all the, if it's water, if it's the first sink, or a natural gas, or some lighting, all that stuff. um but yeah, just having that conversation with them, and being open. I know, again, I'm hesitant, because I think it's a sensitive subject to a lot of them. um Dealing with
Jesse,
other
can I interrupt you? Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes.
Okay. You said that you think that it's a sensitive subject to most of them. Am I correct in what I heard?
Yes.
So my question is it a sensitive subject to most of them or a sensitive subject to you?
To me.
And
To
could it
me.
be possible that you're casting and projecting that on other people, on your customers specifically?
I'd say majority of the time, yes.
So do the clients have the problem with budget, or do you have the problem with budget?
Me. In some sense, because I feel like I've even had other people tell me that. Not all of them, not all, but those little small amount of homeowners that I've talked to that said that, actually, like, it seemed like they chipped that away at me, and it's stuck. So it plays a part of wanting to bring that up. Like, I don't want to. Everything's going good. I'm building rapport. We're having a great conversation about the project, and then next thing you know, like,
Yep. It
it's
comes
like
up and
throwing a
bites you.
wrench. Yeah.
Yep. Thief in the night comes out and steals the project from you. I get it, but we
Right.
have to be very careful as professionals that we're not bringing our own stories and our own head trash into the client's world. For them, $100,000 or $125,000 might have been nothing. Some people make millions of dollars a year, $100,000 they spend on vacation. I know it's tough for people like you and I who didn't start out with any money, weren't given a silver spoon, started with nothing. I get that. But for some out there, they didn't have that. They grew up with money. They grew up that it was never a thing. So we have to be very, very careful of how we approach that subject. It's a very intimate subject for most. It's either lack or thriving or survival. There's so many different parts of the money conversation, and we don't have time to go deep into that today. But the bottom line is that until you shift the way that you see money, your clients are going to keep responding this way to you because you're leading with that. Does that make sense? Could it possibly be that you are the problem here? Is that possible?
It's possible. I could see that. I
Okay.
definitely could see that.
So how would one change that? How would you shift? Because these are only patterns, Jesse. We've talked a lot about this. These are patterns, right? These are stories that we've told ourselves since we were children. Maybe they were our parents' stories that we pulled into our lives as being truths. And that conversation, that story around money in your mind, if you had to say that story out loud, what would it be?
Hmm. Uh, right now, it'd be the financial struggles I've been having like just recently, and all that, and trying just to get by.
Mm-hmm.
I think, because growing up, we really didn't really like face a whole lot of financial struggle. Um, it- you know, um, I've even had people tell me before, like, "Oh, I thought you guys were rich." I'm like, "Well, no." So growing up was that way. But now just when things just the last, I guess, 2.5 years, things have been pretty rough. Um, and I'm still here, but a lot of, financial things have happened and struggles, and um, that definitely plays a part of how I approach things with homeowners on projects. Um, it's like what I'm trying to do is just get some mud and stick it on the wall. Hopefully it sticks, and
Yeah.
you know, and get a project that way. Um,
Yep. And then how do you feel when it doesn't work out? How much more is that amplified given the current mindset when it doesn't work out?
Discouraging. It really is. It feels like, man, I'm never going to get out of this rut. Um, People are not going to want to buy. I'm putting my energy and feeling out there towards them.
Okay.
Um, and then you hear all this negative talk, of, oh, the economy this, the economy that, things are gonna, yeah, it's gonna happen, but I feel like I could control that, but I'm buying into all that jargon because I'm the one that people are talking about, like financial struggles and just trying to get by
Hmm.
type of feeling.
Yep. No, I get it, dude. And we can find all the evidence in the world to support our thought, right? That there's not enough money
Yeah,
out there, that no one's buying right now, and it's not my fault. It's the economy, it's the president, it's the whatever, it's the homeowner association, it's the weather, it's 100 things. We could always find evidence to support whatever, the positive or the negative. So we have to be very careful about where we're looking for evidence, right?
all
So
right.
strategically here, when it comes to the sales process, it's all about setting expectations, Jesse. So expectations need to be delivered early. And if you go in seeking validation from clients and trying to make them your friend and have them like you, then having a conversation around money is going to be even more difficult because you don't want to have money be the reason why they do or don't like you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. And is there ever, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, but is there ever a situation where you feel like, all right, my price is too high. If I give them this, they're not going to like me?
Yeah. Or I'm going to hear, what are you trying to do? Build a house? Or this is crazy. You're not competitive, or you're not, there's other people that are charging a lot cheaper than you.
Yeah. So,
It's,
yeah, you're stuck in a price war, right? So now it's a matter of building value up in the front side of things and making sure that they see and you demonstrate your value ahead of time with how you design, how you take your time, because you've got a massive heart, Jesse. You just want to serve and give and just, you don't want to be out there trying to take advantage of people. How does it feel when you feel that people think you're trying to take advantage of them with these numbers?
oh man, it's crushing. It really is. Because I'm like, that's not me. I don't,
Yeah,
I don't, I'm not going to steal from you,
exactly.
because I don't want people to steal from me.
Yeah.
And I know how hard people work for their money, man. Yeah,
Yeah, 100%. So having taking the time ahead of time in creating a price list and looking through the services that you offer and say, okay, just for conversation's sake here on this workshop, hey, we do decks, we do pergolas, we do patios, we do landscaping, we do lighting. Let's just call it that for simplicity's sake. And here's averages in that category. I know everybody has custom everything. I get that. But have averages for that. They typically are X to Y, X to Y, X to Y. Memorize those things, write them down, tattoo them on your hand, whatever you got to do to know what those things are. This way, when you're talking to clients, you can tell right away when you ask them, what do you hope your budget is for a project like this? And they say $70,000. You can take a quick, calculator in your head or pull out your iPhone and do a calculator if you want and say, all right, well, we're in the realm, like 70,000 should cover us. So we should be good, or we're way off. So taking the time, knowing your numbers, Wes over at Synced Up, we got you covered there. Know your numbers, know what these things cost, and say, okay, I know what my ranges are. Now let's apply them to this project and let's see if they line up with their expectations. That's really what it is, right? if the client, and this will happen too, you mentioned this earlier, if the client says, I don't know what my budget is, or if you ask them, hey, what do you hope for a budget for a project like this? And they say, yeah, I don't know what that is. You can always go in for round two, which is, all right, but if you had to guess, fun, light, joyful, like if you had to guess, what do you think it would be? Two swings. And then they're going to say, well, you know what? We were thinking, I don't know, 70,000. Okay. Next question. What do you hope that'll cover? And then get the list. And then in your head, you do your inventory. There's 4 things on their list. I can do the quick math tally. We're within range or we're way off. If you're way off, simply say, hey, I get it. Are you guys open to learning what these things typically cost? Or you can ask another question like, hey, are you open to phasing this project in order to get what you want? Because you don't know. For some people, they're like, no, we're only ripping the yard apart one time. That budget has to do it all. We're done. And for others, they're like, yeah, we'll work on this for the next 10 years. Every year I get a bonus. We're going to put into the backyard for the next 10 years. We can do 100 grand a year. That's $1 million, whatever. Like you don't know where their head's at. So let's not assume.
Right.
Right? Having a conversation that way where the genesis of the numbers and the guidance is coming from you through great questions and having them simply fill in the blanks. Do you think that could be a more effective way than just telling them what the budget should be? Do you think that they're more bought into the project if the numbers are theirs?
Yeah, because they're the one that said it.
That's right. It's the genesis of the number. That is a critical fact in budgeting with clients, is getting their number. And yes, they're probably shooting low. Yes, they'll probably spend that or more or double it. Who knows? Because they don't know you yet. They don't trust you. It's a defense mechanism. It's very normal. They're trying to protect themselves. It's perfectly fine. And you just have to understand that. Don't call their bluff yet. You simply say, okay. And the next thing you know, when you get those and you say, hey, are you open to what these things, learning what these things typically cost? And they said 70, you said 120. You would be blown away by how many times clients have come back to us and said, well, you know what? Actually, yeah, we didn't really know. We were just kind of guessing. We thought 70 sounded like a big number, so we threw it at it. But 120 is fine. We're good to move forward with that. Do you think there's more buy-in when a client says it like that versus says yes to you that you told them it's going to be over 100,000?
Yeah. They got to be shocked if at that point.
How would you feel if it was handled that way to you personally? How would you feel if someone just told you it was going to be over $100,000 in that same situation? Flip it around, man. Put your feet in their shoes versus them asking you like you care about what the number is for them.
I feel relieved. I feel I think it just would take a lot out of my shoulders or that head trash out and just focus on the project itself. Like feeling like the most important part is handled. Now let's try to put their project in their backyard, like build it, get what they want.
Yeah.
Because after that, like the exciting part is like designing, talking to them, going through all that, looking at the materials. Like I like that stuff.
Yep.
The whole budget thing is the scariest part of this whole process for me. But
not just for you, Jesse, for most of us. Let's be honest. Most of us got into this industry because we love to build cool stuff. We want an endless amount of opportunity. We want to be proud of the awesome ability that God's given us to build things. The whole sales thing and business thing comes as like all right, we got to learn that part, or I'm not comfortable with numbers, but I just want to build. Do you see where there's an oxymoron in there? Because without the customer being okay with the budget, you're not building. We have to get just as good at having that conversation with customers, knowing where to put it in the conversation, not leading with it, but having it after you've built rapport and built trust with them to have that conversation around budget so that you can build these projects. If we don't, we're not going to have any work. And that goes for all the listeners out there. If we get so focused on only the hard skills, the skills of building, which might come natural to us, we might just love that part. But if we can't sell it, or we don't have people on our teams who can serve and sell and help clients and understand by asking great questions, you're not going to get the opportunity to build. That's why the industry closing rate is around 25 to 30%. And that's because of this. Imagine an industry, an outdoor living, design, build, landscaping, hardscaping industry where 75% closing rate is standard. Imagine that. The only way that happens is when we start working on these soft skills and learning how to have these conversations with clients so that we don't have to just guess and assume and then blame them in the end for the reason why the project didn't go through because they were shocked of the sticker shock of the $129,000 bid on the project that they thought was going to be far less, but didn't have the guts to tell you. And now you've wasted all your time and their time trying to figure that out. Why not lead with that?
Yeah.
So again, I've been talking a lot, Jesse. What's been landing for you, and what are your action steps that you'll take after this call?
What's been landing to me is bring that up at the beginning of the consultation, just and making sure both of them, well, at least one of them, and then going back. Usually, I talk to one person, and then at the second time we talk, with especially in design, the spouse comes, and then we end up talking more. But I need to bring that up and figure out what their budget is or what they're willing to spend, and then we could expand on that, because I don't want to feel that pressure in the back end and just hoping and praying that it works out for them and everything's good to go. Because I've had people say, "Hey, man, your designs look amazing, look nice. I love them." They love everything about it, but then at the end of the day, like that's my downfall. So if I'm able to build that budget up at the beginning, getting some numbers from them, not me telling them numbers, but them giving me numbers,
Mhm.
and building on that to relieve some of that stress and anxiety that builds up in me during this whole process, and just working on it and having the courage to basically say it. And I like that, having like a list, so I'm able to not like guess of
Mhm.
like what these numbers would be like, and just like even bring it out and just have this broad range of what the project, like, what things would cost. Again, it's granted it's different, especially if they're all custom made, not like a cookie cutter type
Right.
project. Um, so they have an idea, and then just again let them tell me instead of me telling them. I think that's a big part that I
Absolutely.
took from this.
That's a huge piece right there. And when you start showing up with more certainty around your numbers, your confidence will automatically increase. Your customers will not only feel it, they'll see it, and you'll become a higher value to them. Because what they want is confidence. If this guy can't talk and work through this basic idea of budget, what the hell is he going to do when it comes to building this project? You're seeding doubt, not certainty for them. And they want certainty in an uncertain world. That is your mission as the guide, is to be that certainty. And if you're not certain with your numbers and you're not certain up front, I mean, how can you do a design without a budget? Honestly, trust me, I did it for years. I can say this out loud and I'm not real proud of it, but I used to never ask for budget because that was always a dream killer. And I'd do the design and figuring they'll find the money when they love the design. Well, I was dead wrong. The reality is everybody, I don't care if they're living in a $20 million house or a $20,000 trailer, they all have a budget and they don't all correlate directly to the value of the property. It's their emotional value for this project. So we need to work that with them and understand it together as a team. And then once they entrust us with that number, we need to respect that. And we need to respect that during our design process, understanding the framework of, in this scenario, they have $70,000, but they told us during our conversation that they're willing to phase it over 2 phases of 50,000 apiece. So they have 100,000 to play with, but they've got to do it in 2 slugs of 50. So how do we get this design to be roughly $100,000 or less or more, depending on what they've asked for, and to get that locked in at 2 pieces that each piece looks like it's finished when it's done? If we don't have the information up front by asking great questions during our discovery process before we ever design, how can you possibly know what target you're shooting at? Think about it.
Mhm.
Without asking budget, to design without budget is like putting a blindfold on, grabbing your AR, and just starting to point, trying to hit a target. That's there's the chance of you hitting the target is so slim, it's obnoxious. Versus asking the questions, seeing the target, laying that AR down on a sandbag, dialing that scope directly in, and bang, one shot right through the middle, or at least hitting the paper. Most aren't even hitting the paper because they're afraid to have that conversation because they have a fear of rejection because they want people to like them. That's the bottom line of all of this. If we face that truth, it's okay. We need to face that truth. And once we do, then we're like, you know what? All right, if that's the case, then why don't we have the conversation early? We're doing both us and the client a service. We're not wasting our time. We can finally see the target. Now we can aim our design at that target with a budget, and now we can both land at the same place. Does it make sense?
Oh, that makes sense.
Awesome. Well, Jesse, any other questions for me?
No, I just got to implement this stuff, and yeah, I'll let you know how it goes.
You know, I'm a stickler for accountability. So what I would love for you to do, if you're open to the challenge, of course, is the next client that you meet with. But first of all, first thing you need to do is build this budget.
Today.
Okay. So I know this is short notice. Take the time over the next week and build that pricing list. And when you build that pricing list of the top 5, 10 things that you normally build, take it, write it out, look at historically. You want evidence for this, not guessing or feeling, evidence. The last 5 patios I did on average were about, take all of them, divide them by 5, 500, 700, 300, blah, 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 down through and get an average square footage. And then look at what that would cost. And then give a range, shoot a little bit high because you don't know exactly what other features are going to, or other things are going to be on that patio because everyone's a little different. Get a range. Do the same thing with a deck, same thing with a pergola, all of that. Get rough ranges, averages with evidence from what you've built before. Have that sheet, use that sheet. And you're going to find quickly if that sheet works or not. If you can set the budget correctly up front with a client as they give you numbers that you can set the expectation for budget early and it's accurate, when it comes to selling the project later, there's not going to be as much pushback because if their expectation was $100,000 and your proposal is $99,999, what is the chance of them pushing back, assuming that they didn't lie to you on the number? But if it came from them, the chance is less. So if you're landing it directly on the target, the chance of pushback is higher or lower, Jesse? What do you think?
Lower.
That's right. Now, there still might be some people that are just playing games, but for the most part, if you land on what you say, you said 100, we landed on 100, there should be nothing to push back on. You're eliminating objections. It's when you say 100 and your proposal is 129 that you've created an objection of $29,000 because they don't trust your word. That's my point. You got to get it right up front. And doing that is by adding some fluff to the front ends because it's a design. The design hasn't been done yet. We're trying to set an expectation of where budget should be. And can you build something like that for that? Simple. If you can do it up front, then when it comes time to present stuff, it should line up. And once it lines up, more trust is built and the potential for a yes is so much higher. But it's done up front. Just like when you buy real estate, you make your money when you buy, not when you sell. It's the same thing here. When you start the process of this conversation, it is about making sure that you are dialed in. And this may take time, listeners. This may take time to get these numbers dialed in, but you need to start with something. Take the top 5, 10 things you sell, get averages for them. Start with that when you build budgets. And if you're low over the next few months when you're bidding, bump those up a little bit more. You'll find the sweet spot. And when you find that sweet spot, you're going to be able to budget way ahead of time by getting numbers from them and then just making sure that you can actually do things within that range based on what they hope it includes. What do you hope that'll cover? And now the game it's simple. You both know exactly what all the rules are. Instead of going and assuming and keeping your fingers crossed and hoping like crazy that you're going to nail it. Take the blindfold off, look through the scope, hunker down, breathe out, pull the trigger. All right, Jesse, thank you for coming on today. Listeners, if you're running through anything with your sales process and you're finding yourself keep hitting walls like Jesse is here with budgets and follow-up and all that kind of stuff, simply text sales to 55444 and come on into class. This is what we're going to do in this workshop. It's totally free. Come in and we'll talk through some of the snags that you're in so we can help you get through. Our goal is to get our industry to 75% closing rate. And the way we do that is by having conversations like this. So guys, thank you for listening and we'll see you next week. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you guys. Thank you.